Ironheart, as of early July, which is, it just turned early July, has not been renewed yet for a second season. However, series creator Chinkanaka Hodge, whatever, is optimistic that the superhero show will continue on Disney Plus for multiple seasons. No, it won't. It's like asking a patient, would you like to have another quadruple bypass surgery as they're coming into recovery, as they're coming out of the anesthesia? Will there be an Ironheart season 2 on Disney Plus? Here's what to know. This apparently just came. This is on Forbes magazine. It absolutely won't. Don't worry. I think even Disney at this point is long past the years of pissing money away. The reason it's coming out is because it was already committed to years ago. They spent stupidly even more money to fix it instead of just killing it. This is a show that is now done. It's concluded. 3 episodes last week, 3 episodes this week. Came out last night. I skipped to the last 5-10 minutes of the finale episode because honestly, who cares? There's no reason to watch this show. It's not a good show. It's not entertaining. It's honestly stupid. People made jokes about this being the Acolyte season 2. It's actually very accurate. It's an incredibly overpriced pile of garbage that nobody asked for, that honestly nobody's watching, and that has, frankly, no impact of any merit inside of the intellectual property universe that it serves, right? Acolytes serve no real purpose for Star Wars, except to just screw things up. This show served no purpose towards Marvel, except perhaps to screw things up. And just like the Acolyte, where you had this last-minute introduction of what had been pre-Disney, a major villain character in the way of Darth Plagueis, right? It was a complete waste, right? They introduced Darth Plagueis and the Acolyte, completely wasted, absolutely wasted, had no impact. They did the same thing in Ironheart by introducing Mephisto, played by Sacha Baron Cohen. It will have no impact, no impact. A very cool traditional Marvel villain just thrown away, just wasted on this show, like the $250 million they spent to finish this. But I just saw this as we were starting, and I had to chuckle at this. Forbes probably shouldn't even be covering this stuff. Here's why. Nobody's watching it, okay? There's barely any audience for this show. We covered this Sunday. A lot of people had missed it, and after we reported it that evening on the live show, there were a lot of publications out there that kind of picked up on it. And that was the fact that it didn't even bother to show up on the weekly charts for Luminate. I think the reason that Forbes writes articles on these Disney Plus Marvel shows the way they do, even though the audiences continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller, is simply because of all of the fake social media advertising, marketing, botting that's going on, paid for by the Walt Disney Company. They are schemers and scammers in that regard, right? Disney goes out, they pay for a bunch of bot farms through third-party marketing wings, third-party marketing firms to go ahead and overbot social media interaction for shows that nobody is watching. And you can kind of tell because meanwhile, you've got shows that people actually are watching, right? For example, recently on Paramount Plus, 15+ million people a week on average were tuning into Mobland. I didn't see really much of any social media interaction for that. People were just watching it. But when you get these Disney shows, when you get these Marvel shows and these Star Wars shows, I can't look between two posts without seeing some Twitter bot out there with a couple of followers getting ridiculous levels of engagement, posting. In some cases, I saw one today. I should have marked it. I have to go back and find it. I think it's actually at Riri Defender at Twitter. Don't ask me why I remember that. I think was posting something like 100 original posts just today alone since, by noon today. All of it having to do with this show. That's not organic. Those are bots. And all the responses and everything else and the things that they're reposting or retweeting and all this are from other bot accounts. These are just giant fake social media interaction to make another Disney show that failed look like it didn't fail, but it failed because the proof's in the numbers. Once again, the Walt Disney Company, after 7 days, has not released anything that I have seen, anything that I am aware of. Disney has not released any internal data on this. We remind folks again, this started a few years ago. Disney started a trend where after a few days, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, they kept stretching it out. They would say, Ahsoka, the first episode of Ahsoka, that was the first one they did, if memory serves. 14 million people watched that first episode around the world over the first 5 days it was released, which is not that big of a number. And then we got numbers for, I know, The Acolyte that came after that, maybe a couple of other shows out there, and then it suddenly stopped. And the reason was because the shows that kept coming out later and later, the audiences kept shrinking. They didn't want to report anything for Daredevil. They didn't want to report anything for Skeleton Crew. And guess what? They're not reporting anything for Ironheart. It has been a full 8 days now since the series dropped. We had 3 episodes last week, 2.5 hours of it. We had another 2.5 hours this week. We have a total of 5 hours, 6 episodes of available watch time right now, and it's nowhere. It's Disney. Disney is not out there bragging about global numbers, domestic numbers, nothing. It's crickets over there. It's absolute crickets, but here you go. Ironheart came out Tuesday last week. So this is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday that is on this chart because that's how Luminate measures. And it's not there. 4 weeks removed from Mobland's season finale, it's still on the chart in the 10th spot with 260 million minutes. That means, again, that collectively, the premiere of Ironheart over its first 3 days could not even accumulate 260 million minutes. And it had 2.5 hours of runtime to do it with a fresh show. That means that not even 1.7 million people tuned in to watch Mobland. But as we've been joking about right there, forget K-pop demon hunters for a moment. My oldest daughter is a huge fan of this. She's going nuts over it. I guess all the K-pop and the anime people are loving that. Trainwreck Poop Cruise. Poop Cruise on Netflix. A documentary, a 55-minute documentary. That's it. 55 minutes of Poop Cruise versus 2.5 hours. 155 or 150 minutes rather. 2.5 hours of Ironheart. A 55-minute documentary drama, or just really a documentary on the cruise ship that lost power and was stuck in the Gulf of Mexico for a week, and all the toilets were overflowing, and it was disgusting in there. That pulled in 4.5 million views, roughly, according to Luminate. Almost 3 times what Riri Williams and Ironheart got. Ironheart got beaten by actual shit. That's where we are. Facts are stubborn things, ladies and gentlemen. Facts are stubborn things. Now, I want to be clear. Just like with Andor, and remember, Disney didn't brag about the Andor numbers for season 2 either. They didn't come out and make a press release on Andor that I remember. When I told you when Andor first premiered, it dropped 2.5 hours per week, just like Riri Williams is doing with Ironheart. Although there's only 2 weeks of Ironheart, we're now done. There were 4 weeks of Andor. I told you that Andor would probably chart in the second week. It would be almost impossible considering the huge amount of runtime that will be available within 7 days. 5 hours of a brand new major intellectual property, or at least one that's connected to a major IP, in that case, Star Wars, and in this case, obviously, Marvel. There's almost no way that it doesn't chart, and I hope it does. Let it scoot in there at number 10, because, or if it goes to 4 or 5, I don't care. Remember, you have to adjust. It's not about where it lands on the chart. It's also it's also adjusting it for the available runtime. that was out there, because many of the things on this chart, things like on Prime Video, things like on Peacock, a lot of these things are episodic. You might get a couple of episodes, one episode a week kind of thing. Apple TV is one episode a week, so you have to account for that. But I hope it charts, because I want to see how bad it did this past week that's on the screen now. You see how you got estimated minutes watched, and then you've got previous estimated minutes watched. So even if IronHeart didn't make it on this chart in the top 10 for Luminate last week when this was published on Friday, if it does make it this week in the current measurement period that will end tomorrow night, Thursday night at midnight, then we will see both this week and last week. How far behind Poop Cruise was it? We don't know. How far behind Mobland was it? We don't know yet. But we're going to know. We're going to know pretty soon. And then we'll all be able to get a good laugh at it. But again, I think, honestly, that the writing's already on the wall, because, the Walt Disney Company has not released any information on the performance of the show, apart from creating fake social media engagement to fool people. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.